Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bass Jam, live from the Sun Sphere. I'm Will Ross, your host. We are brought to you by Hutch and Howard Realty, Raven Records and Rarities, and Union Place Bar and Grill. We're broadcasting live from the Sun Sphere. We have Nick Randles. Do you like my radio voice?
Sounds good, man. Yeah.
I had a little live from the Sun Sphere.
Wolfman Will. Yeah, I would be sounding like an NPR announcer most of the interview, so I'm getting over laryngitis.
That's cool, though. You always sound cooler when you're getting over being sick, I think.
Yeah, it's like that tough, husky voice going on. Yeah.
I think RZA from Wu-Tang, he recorded half an album while he was really sick.
Really?
Just because he liked the uniqueness of the voice. It actually sounds kind of bad.
You don't argue with the Riz.
Yeah, there's an art to it.
Yeah.
Well, damn, dude, I want to cry seeing you right now. Like, just being healthy and doing well. Like,
Likewise, man.
We were in the tumbler of a crazy little Knoxville machine that turned us out and shit us out the other end.
Yeah, and for a long time. Too long.
We were productive little fuck ups, but
yeah, it's been a wild ride. That's an understatement. But you look great, man. It's good to see you, and thank you for having me on here, man. This is the view here is amazing. This is really unbelievable, man.
I thought about you last week because I had Joe Bones up here. He was part of the crew we rolled with, and we had like a little tribe of people who all just created music and played music, and
we all of us lived together too.
Yeah, at some point or another.
I see, Nate Austin, he posts those old pictures of the studio and everything, and I always get kind of sad because I miss those days.
Let's go because we're going to do Goes to Past, Present, and Future.
No.
Right now we're in the past, and at one point we tried to start a record label.
We did. Well, I think we did more than try.
Yeah, we did.
We had it going, Do you remember that studio that Nate had off Maynardville Pike?
Yeah.
That was a great space, man.
Legit studio with a real neon sign.
Yeah. My dad made that.
Does that sign still exist somewhere, I'm sure?
No, he dismantled it for some reason. I know. I was kind of bummed.
Probably symbolic in his head.
I'm not sure what it was, but no, we had tons and tons of bands going in and out of there all the time.
That was the cool. We had like 7 bands with 5 people.
Yeah, like it was funny because when you posted up my quote resume on the post, it was like 6 bands you named off, and I was just like, man, I got around, like it was. I was like, played with everybody and got kicked out of everybody's band too.
That's true.
Character.
I got to witness a few of those.
Oh yeah.
So where did music start for you? How did you? Because I guess I knew you as a drummer when I first met you.
Yeah,
you were definitely the drummer dude.
Yeah, well, that's always been my number one. I don't know, before I can even remember, my parents used to tell me that I had a little keyboard, and I would sit in front of the TV when TV commercials would come on, and they said that whenever the commercial ended, that I could play back the music in the commercial exactly in the key that it was in, and just how it was. And I don't remember that, but they like to bring that up a lot, and so it was even before I could remember. And then I remember around probably 7, 8 years old, my parents asked me, they said, well, what do you want to be when you grow up, And I remember being like, I'm going to be a famous drummer, and they were like, oh, that's cute, and then I actually began to pursue it, and actually get some success with it. And so then they were just like, wow, that little dude knew, back then. So yeah, It's always been just as long as I can remember.
But you never took lessons or anything, did you?
No, actually. So the one lesson I did try to take, and I don't remember the guy's name, and it's probably for the best, but it was a guy at Broadway Sound. Rest in peace. I love Broadway Sound. And I remember he asked for the money up front, And so, you know, I paid him for like 2 or 3 lessons in advance, and then come to find out, like, I show up there and the guy had bolted with like everybody's money, skip town. And I think he went to like Atlanta or something, and he took money from like a bunch of people, you know, and they were, yeah. And so my lessons were over before they even began with that.
That was your introduction to music. You're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, at least learning music correctly, you know. And so,
which that's honestly a good lesson in music to learn early on. Like, there's a lot of skeezy musicians out there.
Yeah, I was one.
Yeah, I was too.
Look at us now, though.
I know, sitting on top of the world,
sitting in the sun sphere, man. Yeah, this is great.
Well, you want to go ahead and play a tune from your history while we're talking about it?
I think what I've got up here first is a song called Big Train.
Big Train. And this was recorded with Nate Austin, right?
It was, yeah. This song, I wrote this at my ex-girlfriend's house when I got off tour. And it was kind of my first attempt at writing a bluegrass type song, you know. Very, I don't know if it's very poorly or well, you know, you be the judge, but it was just about me missing Tennessee, missing home, you know, and just kind of how I felt after that first tour. So, yeah, we'll give it a whirl here.
All right, cue it up, man. Let's do it. Nick Randles with Big Train.
Well, big train keeps a rolling, and that's where I wanna be. Yeah, the big train keeps a rolling, and that's where I wanna be. 'Cause it's getting cold and I'm feeling older every passing week. This city's like a stranger that I didn't want to meet. Well, the big train keeps a rolling to my home in Tennessee. Yeah, the big train keeps a rolling to my home in Tennessee. And down behind the mountainside is where I'm bound to flee. And woman, don't you know you'd be a fool to follow me. Let me be. Traveling man has settled down, he's got no time to roam. Yeah, the traveling man has settled down, he's got no time to roam. Yeah, the traveling man has settled down, he's got no time to roam. 100 miles from the wagon tracks is where I build my. Yeah, the traveling man has settled down, he's got no time to roam. 100 miles from the wagon tracks is where I build my home. Build my home. 100 miles from the wagon tracks is where I build my home. Build my home. 100 miles from the wagon tracks is where I build my home.
Had to get that last bass note in there. That's who was playing on that. I didn't play on that one, did I?
I believe that was all me on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was one thing, like, because I knew you from bands like Copper.
Yep, good old Copper.
What were some of the other ones that you were in? Echo Valve.
Actually, yeah, Echo Valve. That was actually an Atlanta band.
Oh, was it?
So yeah, it was such a terrible name. I hated that name, but they were so good.
Yeah, y'all had a video on MTV.
Yeah. And I remember asking them, I was like, can we change that? It doesn't really mean anything. And then they were not having it,
That's pretty funny.
I wonder if they picked up the toilet flushing. I hope so.
That was not a planned sound effect. I think we have a actor studio or something next door. So
Yeah.
a bunch of people out for commercial auditions or something.
Yeah, they look very bored too. They're tired of waiting for something.
I actually did that stuff when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah, like modeled for goodies and had to sit through stuff like that. It was torturous.
I never knew that.
Yep. That's where my narcissism stems from.
That's the source. It's also clear now. I was on a PBS telethon once.
A PBS telethon?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
What'd you do?
I waved at the camera.
That's it. Just be cute.
Constantly, yes. And actually, there's a clip somewhere of me. Like I just ended up growing to hate it over the course of them filming. And so my mom is like telling me off camera to keep smiling, keep waving. And I just get mad and I start like snapping at her and chewing at her, on camera. And you can see me just losing my cool at, 9 years old.
Nice.
Yeah.
But back to the music thing, man.
Yeah.
So you got your start with, what was the first band that you were in that started making big moves and you started getting like...
it was actually, Copper was obviously the biggest one, that I played with. And I still get people to this day. I still get work off of that, 15 years later, and it's amazing. But really before that was a band called Crash Addict. If you remember. Yeah.
I do remember hearing tale about that.
Me and Anthony Ward, rest his soul, and Mike Barnes and people like that. And I remember we actually got attention from Maverick Records, and I don't even think that they're around anymore.
Yeah, I remember that name.
Yeah, and I was 17.
17,
and had been getting major label interest.
And y'all are on the road and everything too, right?
Yeah, somewhat. I think it was more like our moms would drive us to Marietta, Georgia, or something, on a Friday night. But I mean, we opened up for this band who, I think it was somebody that was in Dashboard Confessional or something like that. Ended up
Nice.
it was somebody big like that. I remember we flipped out about that. Emo me loved it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was a Crash Addict was definitely the first, but when Copper, when I landed that gig, that's when really everything changed for me.
And I remember you and I both kind of had to come back down to earth after playing for these bands that went to big places, and then we did the
I was
the working band thing for a while.
Yeah, and that was a good reality check for me because it's the old saying, be careful what you wish for. Mm-hmm. And we got put on these big tours, played with people like Shinedown, Saving Abel, and these huge rock bands, and man, you can get bit real easily.
Yeah, you got 1,000 people in a room telling you you're awesome every night. You start to believe it,
and everything's free.
You get free clothes, free alcohol, free everything.
Absolutely,
free women.
And I mean, you live in a bubble. Like I remember coming back home from tour and just the rules didn't apply to me, like these rules of normal life that everybody was living, I mean.
There's a psychological thing that, you feel special.
Yeah, and like, I can lay on the couch and drink beer all day, I'm in a band, you go work for the both of us. But yeah, so.
And you can pull it. Actually, you could string a whole life together doing that, but it gets kind of sad after a little while.
I promised myself that, I wouldn't be stagnant and keep doing the same thing, and, we've talked about that.
And that's, so we ended up playing cover shows for a better part of 2 years or something.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like it was longer than that.
Maybe, yeah, it was longer than that. I kind of lost track of time in the midst of all that.
Yeah, I was just thinking the other day about us coming back from Smoky Mountain Brewery and that long drive through the mountains where we'd listen to NPR and like the ghost stories and stuff on there, like those were good times.
And
man.
I just hacked off my passenger side mirror one time.
I don't remember that.
I was just like,
that's probably why.
Got to keep going. And
Yeah.
you were all freaked out. You're like, dude, you just knocked your mirror off. I'm like, yeah, it happens. It happens.
We're in the mountains. Yeah.
We had a blast though for a while, man. That was fun. That was, I gotta say, that's one of my favorite parts about that job is driving to strange places out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh,
Meeting good people, having a good time.
do you remember the place that was infested with cats?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fell in the fire.
Yes.
Hands first.
Yes.
And somehow came out unscathed.
That was some, like, Hills Have Eyes, bro.
We went to Murphy, North Carolina to play a show, and we were doing a double header. We were playing the same town the next night, like
that's right. Yeah.
or the next town over. So we needed to find a place to stay. And our lead singer, Evan Melgard, he was like, "I'm getting a hotel." And we were like, "That's all our money. Like, we need to keep our money. We'll just find a place to stay." So we started asking people at the bar, and finally the bar is about to close down. Some scary old redneck bearded.
Scary.
He wasn't scary. He looked.
No, they were nice.
They were really nice people.
Yeah, but
he looked like a hillsman Viking or something.
I'm surprised you remember what he looked like. I barely do, but yeah, I just remember like they wouldn't let us go inside. They were like, "You guys have to stay in the yard," and it got to the point where I was like, "Well, I need to use the bathroom," and so I finally, they talk them into letting us go in there, and we go in, and there was just like a million cats.
And the smell, the smell. It was just like, oh.
Never seen anything like it. You remember, like, it was all dark in there, and like, I remember like the fridge was opened up when I went in there, and there was no light coming from it. Like, so they just had this fridge in there that didn't work, and it was like warm. It was just opened. Oh, it was bad.
Yeah, it looked like squatters just took over a house or something.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. These were like, you talked to, they were really good, happy people. They were the kindest people.
Never think. Yeah. That was definitely one of the weirdest ones.
Yeah. And then we got lost on the way home.
Did we?
Yeah. I ended up like driving through, we drove past Harris Casino, which is like way out of the way from where we were.
That sounds about right.
And I saw a bunch of caribou.
Cool.
First time I've ever seen caribou.
Yeah. Silver linings.
Yeah, it was an adventure. It was a shit show, but
yeah,
an adventure. Well, cool, man. I guess we should play some more music before we go into the next chapter.
Okay. Next chapter. Let's see.
And if y'all are just tuning in, you're listening to Bass Jam with me, Will Ross. We got Nick Randles in the studio.
Hi.
And we're brought to you by Hutch and Howard Realty, Raven Records and Rarities, and Union Place Bar and Grill. Go to them for all your records, housing, and what was the other one? Beer needs.
Yeah. Can't forget that. Okay. So, yeah, this next one here, it's, I won't say graphic in the terms of like cussing or anything like that, but it's definitely a story song about unsavory elements, just living that life. I moved down to Florida when I was 19 years old and got into a lot of trouble down there,
That's easy to do in Florida.
Absolutely. And so this song is just kind of about a few of my experiences there and the characters and situations that I went through. So this song's called Both Sides of Florida.
Both Sides of Florida by Nick Randles.
smoked a cigarette until I really needed one. I never had another man's blood on my hands. I was born in a house in the woods. After 17 years I broke free. Made my way down south to the Gulf of Mexico, doing lines in the sand under palm trees. Too many people are selling and saying, betraying. She loves me, so she loves me. Not so many loves that I have bought. Take the checks and cash them and repent for my many sins. Remember to pray, remember to pray. I went down to the club last night, showed the identification and it seemed alright. But there was trouble at the bar stool, waiting like a damn fool. I took him on and took him out, and then she kissed me on the mouth. But it's no way to live, and I'm not quite sure now that there's something I can give to you anyways.
I like the feedback. That was a classic move on the old albums. Let that feedback run for just like a minute.
The only thing better is the fade.
Yeah, the fade.
Classic fade out. Should have done that.
So who all was recording in that? Was that all you?
Yeah.
That was you on drums, bass,
Yeah.
singing, harmonies.
A lot of, just those sessions with Nate where he and I were, he had his home studio. He and I were home alone. I said, hey, I got this idea, and he had all the instruments there. So
I need to get that ball rolling again somehow with some people. I mean, because, we used to I'd go over to Nate's house, and Nate would be like, check out this drum track that Nick has. And I'd lay something down.
He's actually, man, like he's about to get rolling again on it.
Nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure if you hit him up, he'd be glad to, because we're starting to like reconnect with all the old people, from now that everybody's clean and sober and doing good things. It's a lot easier to everybody, we all have families now. Well, I don't, but most everybody else other than me does. So.
Yeah, doesn't it feel? I feel like we missed our train on that sometimes. Everybody else is like starting families and everything, and then we woke up a little later and like, oh, what did we miss?
we missed a lot.
Yeah,
it's okay.
We had a good time. No, but I really love the how we constructed those songs though, because a lot of times when you sit down to write a song, you sit down to write a song. You pull out pen and paper, you write down lyrics, you write a chord progression. A lot of times we would just start with a bass line. We had no idea where this was going to end up.
Yeah, and that was like the most fun way I've ever written songs,
Yeah, because you don't know how it's going to turn out, but whatever ends up, it's going to be cool.
It's going to be good, And Nate back then was, he was a whiz, and he was really good at like encouraging that type of sporadic stuff, like he wasn't all about, oh no, it's got to be this way, or you got to, I need to have something first, like he was just like, yeah, man, throw that bass line down and we'll ride around it,
Yeah.
It's always great.
Yeah, it's just like, it's almost like abstract art or something.
It really is. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way.
And then somehow it came out all polished and new, and came out, a lot of the stuff we created in that studio too sounded really different. Like you couldn't really pigeonhole it in, because all of us had very different influences.
It sounded like, to me, like a lot of this stuff, it sounds a lot like analog recording that wasn't analog recording,
Yeah. We were on the early end of the digital.
Yeah.
Because that was right when the transition between recording with 4-track recorders and everybody was starting to switch over to digital, and we lucked out.
I never thought about that.
We lucked out with Nate, who somehow just enjoyed figuring all that stuff out.
I've tried.
Me too, dude. I hate it.
Yeah.
I'm doing it right now for school. I'm writing a soundtrack for a video game, and I'm just like,
I'll pray for you. That's cool, though, man.
That's what everybody says when I tell them about that class. And they're like, that's really cool. I'm like, it's not that cool.
It beats doing math.
I know. That's what I tell myself. I could be doing chemistry or accounting or something. And I'm learning how to write a soundtrack for a video game.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, yeah, we've gone through the past. Actually, we got one more chapter to go through.
We did.
You joined the Navy.
I did.
And I remember...
God I did.
When you told me you were joining the Navy, I was just like, huh?
That was pretty much everybody's reaction. Like nobody thought that I could do it, And of course, for a guy like me, I'm like, well, I'll show you.
Yeah. No, it made sense because you were not doing so hot before you went to the Navy.
No.
I don't know if you want to go into depth about that, but.
Well, yeah, I mean... I'm all about giving my testimony.
Share your story.
Absolutely. Just really like we were talking about, just all the years of living in bars, just you become a product of your environment, and so, one day you wake up and, like we were saying about missing a lot, you wake up and you realize, well, everybody stopped partying but me, and so then you're just kind of on your own, and then the phone starts ringing less and less, and then, the gigs start coming, stop coming rather. Just
yeah, and
like
the ones that come are like kind of sad experiences.
Yeah, the dregs. But, so, it just got to a point to where my name had just gotten so bad here that I said, well, I've got to get out of here and just find myself, because, being an alcoholic, that was the scariest thing for me is one day you just look at yourself and you say, I don't know this person. So that's what really did it for me. And so, most extreme thing I could think to do was go live on a ship somewhere. Thank God, he used it. And if it wasn't for the Navy, I would have never got sober. I didn't think going into it that that's what it would take, but that's what ended up happening.
It was ordered by the U.S. government that Nick Randles sober up.
Absolutely. It literally was, I always made the comparison, I was too drunk for the Navy, and I always thought like that's like a Viking being, on a Viking ship and the rest of them telling them, you rape and pillage too much, we got to let you go, It's just like, how are you too drunk for the Navy, So that put it in perspective a lot too.
Did you ever wake up to them singing, "What shall we do with the drunken sailor"?
No. Usually woke up to flashlights in my face saying, go down to the MP's office right now. I'd have loved to waken up to a song.
So when you weren't getting in trouble in the Navy, what were you doing?
I'm just blacking out, acting like a fool.
Well, no, what was your job?
Oh, what was that? Believe it or not,
That was that's a job?
It was for me. Believe it, the most dangerous job that they could possibly give an alcoholic, and that was launching and recovering F-18s on the flight deck.
That seems kind of terrifying. So you got jets zooming by you all the time, and
yeah. They're coming in they go NASCAR speed, so they were coming at 200 miles an hour.
that still blows my mind seeing how they land those things.
Oh, I mean, it was the coolest thing, and it rumbles your whole body when they come in because you're like 10, 20 yards away from them, and so I worked in the arresting gear, the cables that they hit, when they come in. I worked retracting those and maintenance and all that on them. And so, yeah, it was the worst job that you could give an alcoholic, so just be up there shaking and dry heaving, trying not to get knocked over the side by airplanes. It was a blast.
Did you ever see anybody get knocked overboard?
I didn't see it, but I had a buddy walked into a jet blast, and it blew him not over the side of the ship, but it blew him down like probably 30, 40 feet.
Oof.
Yeah, into this other area. I mean, man, he was black and blue for weeks. Never seen anybody look like that before.
He made it out, though?
He made it out. He was a tough dude, man. Yeah, forget his name. But yeah, he was like, and he was also one of the oldest of us. He was like 40, So he'd been there. He knew the ropes, He knew what the job entailed. So he didn't make too big of a deal about it.
That seems like such a shock to the system to go from like playing drums in bar bands to all of a sudden you're on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
You had to just be like, what happened?
Well, yeah, and I didn't choose it, was the thing. I went to the recruiting office, and took the ASVAB test and everything, and, my score came back. I actually had a really good score, but with all of the prior charges in my life that I had, the recruiter said, man, you've got so many misdemeanors on here, you're not going to qualify for anything, and I was just like, oh, okay. So I said, well, what can I do, and so they said, well, you got two things you qualified for. One was a musician. And I said, great, that's what I do. I'll be a musician. And then they said, well, do you have a college degree?
Yeah.
No.
The military band has really high standards.
It found that out, and
because I looked into it too, and I was like, whoa.
And they were good players too, man.
Yeah,
Those
they're all
guys,
really good.
Yeah, they were on a really high level. So yeah, the only other thing that I qualified for was what was called an ABE. It was an Aviation Boatsman's Mate Equipment was my title, and so that's what I chose. It was either go to the flight deck or go home. And so I said, well, I guess I'm going to Top Gun it for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so after the government ordered you to clean up your act and you came home, what have you been doing lately, man?
Man, God has really just moved so well in my life and given me so many blessings. I've just been playing at my church a lot. I go to an awesome church called The Way. Mm-hmm. And just the best people that I've ever known in my life. And so, we're doing a lot of praise and worship music. I'm really focusing most of my time on that. Keeps me grounded. It keeps me worshiping.
That's one of the things with my experience of playing church music, it shocked me at how gratifying it is to play music for a different reason.
Absolutely, because you and I played for our own glory for so long,
just for crazy hedonistic reasons.
Exactly. You couldn't have said it better, man. And so when you're up there playing for the one who literally gave you the talent, it's there's a reverence and a seriousness to it that is there, but also, I've had a blast with it, because a lot of the people that I play with at my church, like one of them, Patrick Haynes, Patrick's a worship director.
Legend of the Knoxville music scene.
Absolutely, and he's still a legend. And then a guy named Carrington Mitchell, who was in Liars and Tigers. I don't know if you remember that band or not, but yeah, he was a singer for them, and he's like the most naturally gifted musician I've ever met in my life. The guy is like, you know, just as quick as we are with catching on to stuff. So it's like playing with my own self every Sunday. It's just been wonderful.
And that's when you see like the joy that it brings to the congregation and just being a part of that special Sunday moment.
Absolutely.
Like there's no greater feeling.
There's really not, you know, and best part about it is I don't need to crack a beer before we do it.
Yeah. And that's, I know, at least in my case, it's carried over into me playing at bar gigs and stuff where it's like, I'm not doing this for myself. I'm in the business of spreading joy.
That's so awesome.
Like, I want to make these people happy.
And I can see it on you, I can see it on your face. You know, you and I have seen each other look every way that a person can look, you know. And, you know, you said I looked healthy. You look healthy, man. You look fantastic.
Maybe a little too healthy, but
I'll take some of yours.
I've been eating like crap since I've been in school. I'm always in a hurry, so I'm like, a double cheeseburger again, I guess.
Yeah, well, you know, time.
Yep.
Time, you got the time to cook.
As soon as school's out, I'll be back to eating white meat and broccoli and eggs and stuff.
I'm gonna hold you to it. I'm gonna send you messages. Make sure you're eating your vegetables.
That's how I say that on my sign off every time, and I don't really abide by it.
Well, I don't know. I like
do as I say, not as I do.
Right. Yeah, rules for thee, not for me.
All right. Well, we're listening to Bass Jam with me, Will Ross, here on Real Knoxville Music. We're brought to you by Hutch and Howard Realty, Raven Records and Rarities, and Union Place Bar and Grill. If you hear some background noise, that's okay. There's people auditioning to be in a commercial. And I think, we should audition after this. Let's see if we can get a spot.
Sure. You know, I mean, I could be a mime or something.
Yeah.
You know.
Just as long as we don't have to talk.
Exactly.
Just pay us for our pretty faces.
Yeah. Oh, well, then we're set.
Let's check out another track from the Nick Randles vault.
This one here is kind of on the same subject as what we were talking about. You know, you've known me 20 years plus, you know, and you know I've always been a devout Christian.
Gosh, has it really been that long?
It has been that long.
It has been that long.
Obviously, I didn't always live it, you know, but, you know, love Jesus will always, you know, I'll never deny his name. This song is it's called Commandments and Capacities. And, man, I hadn't heard it before kind of getting this stuff together, and I really think it's like my favorite one that I've written. You know, and it didn't used to be, But, you know, it's really just about kind of the world's idea of what you should follow, you know, and, you know, kind of turning from that to these thoughts of God's ways and also love, you know, like the capacity to love, you know, and also in doing that, still trying to find time to enjoy things. You know, God's given us so many good things to enjoy, you know, and there's a line in the song that says, but hey, plant your vineyards, drink your wine, you know, and that to me is just kind of like, don't worry about it, you know, like God is sovereign. He's got everything under control, you know, enjoy what he's given us, you know, and don't take yourself too seriously. So that's kind of
good message.
Thanks. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll it.
Yeah, let's roll it, man.
All right, bro.
What's the name of the tune again?
Commandments and Capacities.
And capacities for love, price. But will the blind lead the blind? Will I lift a finger to save you from the ditch when you fall? Yeah, yeah, yeah. But hey, let your vineyards drink your wine. When the answer comes, we'll feel alive. No matter what they tell you, no matter what they sell you, don't buy. Give thanks and praise and feel alright. Give thanks and praise and feel alright. Give thanks and praise and feel alright. Give thanks and praise and feel alright.
And that was Nick Randles with
Commandments and Capacities.
Nice.
Yeah.
I really love that tune, man. That's
Thanks, man.
Yeah, and that's like a good example of the unique sound. There's definitely some like 90s rock and roll in there, but there's like your own little flavor that you added to it.
Yeah, I think I was just thinking like that was in a big dashboard confessional phase, you know. And I think it wasn't too long after that song "Vindicated" came out, if you remember that one on the Spider-Man soundtrack, and it was just such a triumphant song. And I remember I want to write something like that, you know. So that's kind of the mindset I was with that. Thank you, man.
And again, that was you on drums, bass, and guitar. And
That was. But I believe on the next one you played.
Really?
Yeah.
It's hard to keep track because there is a lot of stuff listening back where I'm like, I don't remember if that was you playing the part or me playing the part.
Yeah. Well, no, like, if we did Return of the Indian today, like, you know, I get confused. Like at the beginning of the song, you know, for everybody listening, I wrote a 17-minute long instrumental rock opera once about the Trail of Tears. and we're not going to play that for you today. We got complaints the one time we did, so we're going to spare you of that. But yeah, you played on that one your guitar solo is amazing on that.
I even played drums at one point on that.
I know,
one.
yeah.
It was a rare, and then I played organ on it, I think, too.
Yeah, and man.
And that's you have an amazing guitar solo. I have an amazing. It's an epic tune.
It is, man.
But it's a little bit self-indulgent. It's like a really long sketchbook of ours.
And it just makes no sense, really.
No.
You know,
I think I was listening to a lot of King Crimson at the time of it.
Absolutely, yeah. I remember we listened to a lot of Mars Volta at that time
Mars
too.
Volta,
So,
trying to get weird with it.
But I actually was thinking about putting it on here today, and I listened to the file, and like 4 minutes of the file got corrupted somehow, and I was super bummed. Yeah, and I don't know how that happened.
But I can tell all our listeners out there, if you got a spare 17 minutes in your life and you want to hear some cool stuff, check out Return of the Indian. Yeah. Is it live on cassette or did we?
Yeah, Return of the Indian live on cassette. Nate came up with that one,
which had nothing to do with anything, but it sounded good.
No, it's just live on cassette, you know. And I would love to redo that song and put it out on cassette if that were possible at all.
It needs to happen.
Yes,
it'll be a collector's item.
I'm gonna look into that.
Heck yeah! And then we tried a sketch show at one point. I remember we had been watching a bunch of Tim and Eric, and we were like, let's try comedy.
Ronnie's segment. Old talking about why isn't there a New Zealand, or why is there New Zealand? Why isn't there an Old Zealand? Where's Old Zealand or something like that?
Yeah, we all had you did a weekly traffic report from a hot air balloon.
Yeah. Actually, Douglas Tarwater was his name. That was my character. Some of that stuff was actually funny.
It was pretty funny.
You know, most of it. Yeah,
I do remember though, like it took a lot of creative energy to just come up. I think we did 2 episodes total. And after that, we're just like, I got nothing left.
We're not comedy writers.
No, and hats off to the people who do it. That is
Absolutely.
tricky to just pull humor out of thin air.
And that's one thing. The beauty of getting older is it's like you realize what you're not, and you're okay with it. You know, like when I was younger, if somebody said, "Well, you're not too great in this area," boy, I'd defend it. You know, I'd be like, no, like I can do this, and I'll let me tell you why that I can. But now it's just like, no, I'm not that. So it's.
I think there was a brief period where I identified as a drummer. And I can drum, but I realized, like, dude, just stick with what you're good at. Like,
Well, that's kind of how I felt about guitar.
Yeah.
If you put a gun to my head and say play a guitar solo, and I'm going home to Jesus, man, it ain't gonna happen.
I think if all the drummers were dead and they needed a drummer to pull off a show, I could do it. But.
Oh yeah, you're definitely not the worst I've ever seen. That's for sure. You have rhythm.
So you're playing in the church now.
Yeah.
What's your side hustle? How you making money?
Working at a wonderful company called Melaleuca. I wouldn't really call it a side hustle. But,
I just always say that because everybody's really a musician, right?
I will always be. That's number one. Just working in a warehouse, man, and that, being on the road for so long, all the time that people had developing job skills, I missed that. I went for broke and ended up broke. But that's the beauty of it. Like when you get older, like I'm okay with working in a warehouse because I at least followed my dream, and I know that I don't have to think, okay, what if I didn't?
Right.
So to me, that's worth more than
anything. And it's probably healthier than just like trying to throw yourself into some cover band, playing gigs you don't want to play, being surrounded by terrible influences every night.
Yeah. Are you talking about now? Like at this point?
Now.
Oh, yeah. No, never again. Now there are a few people that actually, like, because we were talking about starting a bluegrass band.
Yeah,
I really want.
We need to do this.
Yeah, all I've got to do is get the mandolin. I've got the money for that.
Well, I got a trio that's looking for a mandolin player. So
we might need to pump the brakes a little bit. I started to get real good at one point, like a few years back.
I know your capacity and ability to learn things musically you're a bit of a savant in that. Like I've seen it happen before, where you can just you can play Spirit of the Radio and sing it. I don't know anybody who can do that on drums.
Yeah,
on drums.
It was hard. It's not, it's not easy, but I appreciate that, man.
So it was behind that, like especially that piece in general. Like, was there a period where you were locked away in a room for hours, like actually working on that? Because from what I saw, you were just like, oh yeah, I got it. It's always been easier for me to play drums and sing than it is to play guitar and sing.
Huh. Like to me, it's the difference between using 2 appendages or 10. Since I'm using 2 arms, it's easier for me to think about just only using 2 arms than what 10 fingers are doing. That's just how my brain works.
Right on.
So but when I start having to, use 3-4 fingers on chord changes and I'm trying to sing in key, it's just too much for me. But
my point is, though, I could see you getting good at mandolin pretty quick.
Yeah, no, man, we really need to do that. Like, there's still some things that I will, pursue other than worship music, but as far as like the rock and roll days, that's behind me. You know, it's just, you got to know when to say when. It was a good run.
And I feel you there, man. And I'm very careful about the gigs that I choose now because I don't like feeling, driving out to Oak Ridge. Nothing against Oak Ridge, but playing at a bar out there's some pissed off old lady smoking cigarettes.
They're trying to eat their Salisbury steak, and you're out there playing Purple Haze at them.
Yeah, you kind of have
actually probably been in that exact scenario before.
They're just trying to eat their chicken fingers and go home and not tip.
Right. And, definitely kudos to those who do it. I mean, we did it for years and years and years.
And I'm not above doing it. I'll still do it if the price is right.
Yeah, sure. But, it's just like we said, like for me, just being able to play for someone else's glory other than mine.
Yeah. Especially at that point, you're just kind of playing for that $100.
Yeah. Oh, you better be.
Yeah. And like that's a sad feeling when you're just playing for that $100, like because music is so much more important and better.
And now that $100, you're spending 50 of it just to get to Oak Ridge.
Yeah.
And, maybe get a hamburger or something if you're lucky.
So we've talked about the past, we've talked about the present. What about the future?
Well, kind of like I just said, like I want to get this bluegrass thing off the band. I've been in a real big bluegrass phase.
There is something about bluegrass that has swept over me lately too.
And that's so awesome because I remember I texted you the other day and was like, just kind of half jokingly, start a bluegrass band with me, and you were like, that's actually where my heart's been these days. And I said, wow, what are the odds, So I'd like to get that up and running, and then. Like I said on break, like me and Nate have reached out to kind of Will Morrell and James Loveday and like these people that we used to live and play with, and they've all settled down, got kids and family, but they really want to get together and just kind of play some of the old songs at their house or something, and I would love to do that because, it's just everything's came full circle, it seems like right now.
That's what's fun about playing with those. I played with them, I guess it was 2 years ago now last time I played with Will and James and all them.
Yeah.
And I got excited about it because it sounded great. Obviously, they're all great musicians, and you can just hit play. And
they love playing, and it shows. Like
the ideas were just bouncing back and forth, like, ooh, I'm going to do this. Ooh, and then I'll do this at this part. And then... Yeah, it was.
That's why I want to get back together with those guys.
I got so excited though. I was like, we need to book a show, and Will Morrell was just like, dude, we're just playing for fun now. Like, I just want to commodity.
You're right.
Turn everything into a commodity.
That'll probably
and sell
happen with me when I see him.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, just really more of the same for me. Just focusing on the ministry, focus on keeping my nose clean. And just. Living the way that Jesus would want me to. That's where I'm at right now.
Well, I think you're doing a heck of a job at it.
Thank you, man.
If y'all are just tuning in, you're listening to Bass Jam with Will Ross, and that's me, Will Ross. We got Nick Randles in the studio.
Hey.
We're brought to you by Hutch and Howard Realty, Raven Records and Rarities, and Union Place Bar and Grill. Let's check out another tune from the vault.
Okay, how much time do we have left? Is it?
We got like 7. Yeah, this will probably be the last one.
Okay, so you know which one it's going to be, man.
Heck yeah, this one's always been my favorite.
So there is a curse word in this song name, but it's more in the person sense. It's the song's called Whiskey Bastard. Okay?
I wouldn't call it a curse word, but it's not a nice word.
So I've got to give you, I don't know if you remember the backstory to this song.
No, bring
it. I have to tell this one. So it was when we lived over at the Oak Ridge house, the Wexford Downs.
Wexford Downs.
Yeah, old Wexford Downs. It sounds so much nicer than what it was. We had a party over there one night, and this was just in my rip-roaring, whiskey phase, and you remember my ex, Jade. Mm-hmm. Well... She had brought it was one of the only times that she brought her girlfriends over, to meet. It was a house of guys, that were all just raging alcoholics basically at that time. And so she was very weary of that, you know. And so, of course, that was on one of my nights where I was borderline just blacked out, you know. And so we got into an argument about something. And I remember she got so mad that she was yelling at me, and she just sputtered and goes, "You're a whiskey bastard," you know. And literally, man, at that second, lightning just struck my brain, and that whole song came to me written already. And I'd heard people talk about that before, you know, but it was the only time that it was like channeling or something, you know, like that's the only time that ever happened to me.
I know what you mean, because I actually had a similar moment in that house.
Right. Wow. Maybe it was
Yeah.
a house.
Maybe it was.
But yeah, you know, so I actually, in the middle of the fight, you know, it was just like on Walk Hard, if you remember that movie, where he's like writing a song in the middle of them breaking up, you know, while they're talking. I mean, it was the same thing. And I just stopped her and I said, "Listen, baby, I know you're mad, but I got to go downstairs and write this song." And she was just, "What?" You know, of course, did not understand.
She's all mad at you, and you're like, I got an idea.
Yeah, just so excited, you know, just oblivious. But so it ended up, you know, like I wrote the whole song down, lyrics, music, already finished in like 5 minutes. And she actually took time off from being mad at me to help record the bridge of the song, wherever it's like the party sounds and stuff in it, you know. So, you know, during the middle of a fight with my ex-girlfriend, I got her to clang bottles together and stuff, you know. And by the time we got done, we couldn't remember what we were arguing about. So that song actually prolonged my relationship for
Nice.
well, yeah. So yeah, and I think it's still the best song that I've probably ever written. It's my favorite.
Yeah, it makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside.
Aw.
It's got that coming home,
Yeah.
being around friends, warm feeling to it.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, so, yep, this song is called Whiskey Bastard.
Yeehaw. Thank y'all for tuning in.
I'm moving on, right to the
That was the epic Whiskey Bastard. I can't talk, man. Whiskey Bastard.
John Wiki.
by, by Nick Randles. Dude, it's been great having you on the show and catching up with you.
Thank you so much. I've genuinely had fun.
Yeah.
It's so good to see you.
You like our new spot here. It is great to think that,
I'm
like,
gonna have to come back here. I mean,
10 years ago we were, hustling to survive, and
10 years ago they wouldn't even let me near the sun sphere, much less sitting in it.
look at us now.
Oh man,
It does feel good, man. I'm
good.
glad that we're evolving and growing.
me too, man.
Well, thank you all for tuning in. This has been Bass Jam with me, your host, Will Ross. We've had Nick Randles on the podcast today. And
Thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, and thanks for being on the show, man. I look forward to playing music with you in the future.
Absolutely. Bluegrass.
Bluegrass.
Let's
Heck
go.
yeah. As always, eat your vegetables, practice your scales, and don't do drugs. Good night, Knoxville, and other places.